Thank you for joining us for this edition of Santa Ana College Close-Up. I'm Katie LeCarey. I have some amazing guests here today, but we'll start our show with a sneak peek inside SAC's Biotech program.
Mentally, and just went from there, okay, boom, and he's left with the numerator over the denominator.
SAC is one of the few community colleges which offers certificates in biotechnology.
And he's left with that.
The program is set up to contain a combination of lecture and lab time during class to give students the skills needed for employment and university coursework. The rapidly growing field includes medical research and alternative energy research.
Yeah, we can do that. That's the next standard, though. So that one goes in next.
The program's alumni have even gone on to conduct research at top institutions. Welcome back. Here to talk about SAC's Biotech department is Charles Zhang. Charles, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Katie.
So I know that biotech is a very broad field. Can you maybe just summarize it for us?
Biotech is the field that discovers and produces medicines that are then delivered to patients. Biotech also works in food and food production, making food safer, cheaper, more abundant. And biotech also works in products that are less damaging to the environment.
So would that be like the enzyme in your laundry detergent?
Absolutely, yeah. So, laundry detergent used to be very, very caustic, sodium hydroxide, very lye, caustic chemicals. And we wanted to move away from that. And so now we replace a lot of that with industrial enzymes that are produced through biotech. So we don't have to put these very toxic, caustic compounds down our drain.
Would that also be like proteins that go into body like insulin, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So biotech medicines like insulin, like EPO, various hormones that are given to people who are sick are produced through biotechnology. They're discovered and then produced through biotech.
Can you tell us a little bit about biotechnology here at SAC?
Sure. The SAC Biotech program, we have both certificates and a degree program, and we teach students how to work in a lab, whether the end goal is to work in industry or work in research or academia. We show them how to work in a biolab, the techniques that they need to have, how to be safe in a lab, and then ultimately they can go work in industry or work in academia.
Is this like a career path for someone who's like, maybe I want to be a doctor, maybe I want to be a nurse, but I'm not really sure? Is that how a lot of students find biotech, or?
Absolutely. I get a lot of students that want to be a doctor, want to be a nurse, but also want to back up. Or they want to take some biotech classes to help improve their chances of getting into various programs. Part of applying for med school means you have to get some experience doing research. It really looks good on a med school application. And so how do you get into a lab? A lot of times students just walk up to a professor and say, hey, I want to work in your lab, but oftentimes professors are kind of reluctant to let somebody in who doesn't have that kind of experience. The biotech program gives our students the experience and the confidence, frankly, to walk up to any professor and say, hey, I can work in your lab, I have the skills, I know how to be safe, I can come in day one and be productive.
Do you guys have internship programs? Like what kind of programs do you have to help students get the training and the jobs that they need?
Absolutely. So after finishing the first level certificate, that qualifies them for our internship program, and we've sent students to intern at places like the FDA or at the UCI Medical Center, to various other biotech companies like Zymo, or even other toxicology and testing companies.
If a student, say, wants to go down a certain path, is there different things? Because you talked a little bit about medicine, you talked a little bit about ecology and quality control for food.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way, if someone is like, hey, I'm very interested in making sure that the environment is good, do you guys set students up along those interests?
Yeah, absolutely. Our internship program is not a one-size-fits-all. We take into account what our students are interested in pursuing, and we try and find either a company or an institution that will accommodate that. Absolutely.
And what do the people who accept your interns, what do they say about the people who go through your program?
They love our students, frankly. Many of our students, this has happened quite a few times, we send them out to be interviewed for the internship program. They interview and actually get offered a job. Right, they entirely skip over I'm not saying that that's going to happen with everybody, but that certainly has happened. And many of our interns are offered jobs after they've completed the internship. One of my students was actually offered a position at a lab, but she wanted to continue her education, and so she actually turned them down. But they're holding a position for her for when she finishes her degree. She already has a job lined up for her.
How well paying are these jobs?
These are skilled jobs, and of course depends on your experience and your education. But these are definitely not minimum wage jobs. You can start anywhere from $15 to $20 an hour, again depending on experience and education, and it can certainly go much above that. Obviously, if you go get your PhD, you'd get paid a lot more. But it's a really lucrative and well-paying career.
So you could definitely pay your way, say, through school, like through a 4-year or medical school. It's a good way to get experience and to also make sure that the cost of all this schooling isn't too prohibitive.
Absolutely. In fact, there are quite a few companies that will pay for their employees to go back to school, and so it's not super common, but it does happen where a company will pay for your schooling.
Mm-hmm. And so we talked a little bit about how you can treat the sick and everything. So biotech seems to be this really broad field that kind of helps save, different parts of the world. Like, can you expand upon that a little bit? Yeah,
what I like to talk about is, biotech being able to alleviate suffering, human suffering and suffering of the planet. There's a lot of diseases today that aren't treatable, much less curable, and it's biotech that's on the front lines trying to discover treatments and cures for these diseases. There are people all over the world that are either that are malnourished. They maybe get enough calories, but they don't get the right type of vitamins and minerals. There are lots of biotech programs working to make food more nutritious for people like that. And there's lots of projects for to alleviate suffering of the planet. One of the projects is making a form of bacteria that will eat crude oil. Right? We had a big crude oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, and one of the tools that were used to help clean up that spill were bioengineered bacteria that would eat the crude oil to help kind of disperse it and help clean up the environment, the mess that we made.
We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back to hear from one of the alums from SAC's Biotech department. And so join us then.
Thank you.
Yeah. Here.
I chose college because financial issue first, and second because I know there's a good program for music in here.
I chose to come to Santa Ana College because it is a local school and I did not want to drive that far.
I chose here because I was already enrolled into middle college, which is basically I was enrolled in SAC classes and I was doing high school classes at the same time.
The professors, honestly, at universities, it seems like professors never have any time for the individual student, and that's the complete opposite here.
The guidance I have here, because I'm in EOPS, I feel like I'm not by myself, like I'm not confused about anything, they just help me so much with my classes, my ed plan, and it's just like, I have counselors there to support me.
I think my favorite part about Santa Ana College is just the atmosphere and everybody around it.
Hello again. My next guest is Erica Adriano, an esteemed alum from SAC's Biotech department. Erica, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So we're just I'm just wondering a little bit about biotech and why did you decide to go into this field?
So biotechnology is actually a very big growing field right now. There's a lot of companies that will utilize biotechnology, such as like the medical community, agriculture, or just food production in general. So it's very fast growing, and it's something that interests me because I plan on doing a little bit of cancer research and maybe even get into parasitology.
Okay, so those are a lot of words.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Could you just explain a little bit what you're working on and what you do?
Okay, like in the lab? Or?
Yeah, in the lab.
Okay, so I'm working in the Department of Urology at UCI Medical Center, and I do cancer research. So I work specifically with prostate cancer.
Oh my gosh, that's like amazing. So you're like actually helping to save lives right now.
I'd like to. I do.
And so how did like SAC's biotech department help set you up for that?
So they're the ones that actually set me up with an interview there. So I was able to learn a lot of skills in the courses that I took, and once I started, I was able to get started on making experiments as soon as I got accepted.
Wow, that's amazing. And did you go through the entire biotech program, or just a few certificates? How did that work, or did you get the associates in science?
I got my associates in science, not in biotechnology, but in biology. But I did get the first level certification, the beginning one.
So, which courses are you taking right now, and how? And which courses, like at SAC, did you take where you learned, what you're doing now? How did that prepare you?
Right now, I'm taking microbiology, and I'm also taking parasitology and neuroscience. For microbiology, we do learn about small bacteria, which is something that I learned in the biotech program. I was able to physically, hands-on, make recombinant DNA. So I was able to work with E. coli and kind of get an understanding of how it's used in a practical medical field.
Okay. So it's like definitely like a hands-on type of approach.
Yes.
As opposed to like a textbook type of approach.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that helps, like, I guess, like prepare you? Like, is that what has helped you stand out from your peers at the four-year university?
Yes, definitely. So in a lot of my courses, they talk about applications or types of experiments that are done. And when I hear them talk about it, hear my professors talk about those experiments, I actually understand it because I've done those experiments. So I can remember them a lot more easily.
Can you tell us a little bit about your future plans? Like what's coming up? What's coming up on the horizon? What are your long-term goals in this field?
So long-term goals, I am going to be starting the PhD program soon, so I have my application deadline in January. So I would like to do either cancer research or do parasitology.
Can you tell us a little bit about parasitology? You've mentioned it a few times, so I'm just curious about it.
So there's a lot of parasites that are affecting millions of people all over the world, specifically in sub-Saharan Africa and other more endemic areas. And even though we don't really see it here in the United States, it does affect millions of people, and especially women and children. And I'd really like to come up with some sort of medication or drug that can actually save their lives.
So would you travel, or is that something that you can do in a lab here?
So there are some experiments that can be done here, but there is also a lot of travel involved. For example, if you want to study nematodes, then you would have to go someplace like the Arctic, where they have a lot of nematodes, and we don't really see that here as often in the United States.
Mm-hmm. And so what kind of job do you plan to get out of your PhD? Would that be like with the CDC? Would that be like, how does that work? Or like with a drug research company?
I'd really like to work with a drug research company, so I plan on going into industry as soon as I get my PhD, preferably with a pharmaceutical company.
Okay. Would you recommend this career field and SAC's program?
Oh yeah, definitely. Honestly, the biotechnology program has completely changed my life. They have given me an internship. They have opened so many doors for me. I feel really strong about my PhD application. I feel really strong about making a career out of this. And it's, like I said earlier, it is a fast-growing field, so there's plenty of jobs available, and I feel very secure in that.
Wow, that's amazing. So that all started here at SAC.
It did.
When you started going to SAC, did you ever imagine yourself in this kind of industry, or what?
I knew I wanted to do science, but I didn't think that I could get this done so early. I knew that eventually I planned on doing my PhD and getting into industry, but I feel like this is completely just sped me through a lot faster.
Did you know that biotech was like even a field before then?
I actually found out about biotech in my second year at Santa Ana College when I took Charles's plant biology class, and he told us about this field, about the courses that you could take, and it seemed exactly like what I wanted to do. But originally I was going in just biology, chemistry, and getting my degree in biology, and I wish I would have found out sooner. I would have definitely gotten my associates in it.
So can you tell me a little bit more about your job at UCI and helping to cure prostate cancer? That's really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I've been there about a year and a half, almost 2 years. And what I do on a typical day is I show up and I work on specific drugs. So we test certain drugs to see if they can either aid with current chemotherapy treatments or try to see if there's a way to provide that drug without having to do chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is very taxing on the body. Actually, I myself am a survivor. I don't know if they mentioned that, but yeah, I've been 2 months ago. I've been cancer free.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So.
No, you never mentioned that.
So it is very taxing on the body, and I feel like it kind of fuels my drive a little bit to try to see if there's a non-chemotherapy way to help patients with prostate cancer.
Oh my gosh. And I guess what inspires you most about the work that you do?
What inspires me is thinking that I could change somebody's life for the better, thinking that there could be a dad that can be there for his kids someday, or hopefully someday people won't even have to worry about getting prostate cancer or have it be such a scary thing.
And I'm sorry, I don't really know that much about prostate cancer. What are like the survival rates for that already?
Right now, like most other cancers, if it's caught early, it can be a lot better treated. But once it gets to later stages, it's a lot more difficult to treat. And there's certain hormone therapies that most men wouldn't typically want to go through because it could involve some sort of castration or just something that can be very emotionally draining. So if
You're
we can
providing
prevent
a solution to that. Wow, that's amazing. And would you possibly want to if you don't go into parasitology, would you maybe want to continue that work too?
I would. And if I were to see in cancer research, I think I'd also really like to look into ovarian cancer, just because it is hits a little bit closer to home for me. But if not, I'm more than happy to be staying in prostate cancer research.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you so much. But unfortunately, we're out of time. So thank you so much for sitting down with me, Erica.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me today. And be sure to check back later for our next edition of SAC Close Up. Thank you.